Here we are inside the Adria Alpina Missouri 613 UC. If we step inside and go right above the entrance door, we have the main Adria control panel just here. So if we press this button in, we will then turn the 12-volt system on. You will also see we have an illumination just here letting us know that we have main supply connected to the caravan. As we now rotate this button, we can get numerous amounts of information. So this one here would let us know how much water is in the waste tank if we had a waste tank, which we do not on this caravan. If we now rotate, this is now letting us know how much water is in the fresh tank. So we're currently at 50%. If I now want to turn the water pump on, I now press this button in and you'll see the water pump light just comes up there. And now if we move over to a tap, we will now get water. This is how we also need it if we want it to be 12 volt live outside to fill up the onboard water tank just here. If we now rotate again, we will now get the condition of the leisure battery. Down this side here we then have lights. So we have all of the lights on and off, just on all the buttons just here. We then have the awning light, and then we have the memory buttons as well if we want to store in a certain amount of lights being on at any given time. They can all be individually turned on and off on their own switches. Beside the main Adria control panel, we then have the Aldi control panel for the heating and the hot water system. So if we now turn it on just here, once it's fired up, we will come to the home screen, and again it will let you know if you have main supply connected. It will give you an internal temperature of the caravan and an external. If we now press menu, it will pull up its basic functions. So the top one just here is the thermostat for the heating. So plus and minus, just pick whatever temperature you would like it to be inside the caravan. Beneath that we then have hot water. So hot water is currently off, hot water on the boost facility. If you do perform the boost and the heating is running, it will turn the heating off as it needs to take the extra power to do it. After heating and hot water, we then have power source. So even though this is highlighted in green at the moment, it's absolutely doing nothing because we haven't told it what power we are going to be using. So the top one here is for mains electricity. So we can run on 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatts or 3 kilowatts, just dependent on the ampage of the site you're on to stop yourself from tripping. And if I now turn that back off again, we can also run on gas. If we have both power sources available to us, we can also run in dual fuel. Dual fuel is especially handy in the winter months if you want to get up to temperature nice and quickly. It will only use the gas as it's required. ACC is for the workshop, so we can't gain access to this. If we now press the cog button just here, it will bring up the settings menu. The first one here is for a night timer. So we turn it on and off just up here. We then set the temperature we would like it to be for that period. We then set when the timer should begin, whether it's for all days of the week or just individual, and then when we want the timer to stop. We can also invert the backlight just here. So this screen here goes from the grey white colour to black, and the writing goes to white. And we can also highlight this one here, which will stop any hot water being made throughout that period. After that, we then have the day timer. So again, exactly the same as what we've just seen before, but just for the daytime. Prioritise is what the system prioritises in using when in dual fuel mode. So at the moment it favours main supply over gas. If you are on an extremely low amp site, what you can do is make it so it consumes more gas, less electricity. This one here just controls the brightness of the screen. You can invert it all the time if you want to. This one is not used on this model. Obviously, if you're going to be using timers, it helps if the timer is correct, so we just set it in this one here. If we now arrow down, again, the majority of these can only be accessed by the workshop. We can access this one, which I will show you in a moment. This one here is antimicrobial. It basically works in conjunction with night mode, so you do have to have night mode active. Basically what will happen then is at about 2-3 o'clock in the morning, the boiler will then come on and kill off any bacteria that may be in the system. This one is just temperature offset for the external and internal thermostats. If you don't think they're quite correct, you can just tweak them. High altitude mode, so if you are caravanning 1,000 meters above sea level, you can activate this one, which will help the system run at that different air pressure. Whether or not you would like button beeps on, instead of having multiple timers, you can just have one delayed start and stop to the system. Pump settings, just leave it set to thermal. We do not want it on continuous, or otherwise the fluid will just go around the radiators constantly. Full factory reset, so if there is a problem, you can reset the system. External start, you can have extra SIM boxes, etc. added to these particular systems, so you can control it via an app. Language, service, again more for the workshop, but it will let you know what the ethylene glycol temperature is for the radiators and the water temperature. Installed accessories, the only one in here that is of any use is this one, which is the load monitor. If we now arrow back up again, you will now see we can access this one. If you know how many amps the site is that you're on, you can then activate it just here. So let's say we're on a 10 amp site, select. Even though we're now running at 3 kilowatts, it will control itself to stop itself from tripping. Because that is now an activated function, it will appear here, and we can then go back into it, turn it off, turn it up, etc. Next we have the onboard water tank just here to drain the tank down. It's just done on this grey lever here. All we need to do is literally just flap it up like so. Just make sure that the water pump is turned off. Next we have the back of the battery box just here, and then we have the consumer for the 12 volt just here. We have the 12 volt fuses all down here. Tucked up here we have the Adria Media Center, so we can basically stream music through this. It's very easy to use. All we need to do is turn it on just underneath, just here. You can see you can directly plug stuff into it as well, but if I turn this on here, we'll then fire it up. If I now
Bluetooth mode,
go to my phone just here and I go into my Bluetooth settings, This will then come up as Adria. If we now select that, we will now pair up to the system. I've now paired to it. I have a radio station just here. So now we can stream, for instance, Heart through the media player. Simple as that. And then we can control the volume just on the front here. Next, we have the 3 gas burners just here. It is just push in, twist and press the igniter. There we go. And then we have the grill. So again, just push in, twist and then press the igniter. And then the oven beneath. Beside the oven, we just have the freestanding table, just there. And then if we go just underneath the sink, you'll see a couple of gas isolation taps just there. They are labelled up, so we have the hob and the cooker. Obviously, wherever there's a gas appliance, you're always going to find gas isolation taps quite close to it. These are in the on position and can quite frankly stay like that. They're more for maintenance than anything else. I always say personally, if you smell gas in the caravan, go to the source and turn the gas bottle off. The microwave just sits above, just here. We have the fairly usual quick start and stop just here, or we can rotate for time. And then we have defrost and power settings just here. Next we have the Thetford fridge, on and off on this one here. This is an automatic model, so as long as you are on A for auto, it will find the best power source it can for you. So because we're currently hooked up to main supply, it's automatically put us on to mains on the little picture there with the 2-pin plug. If I now went outside and unplugged this from the main supply, it would then attempt to fire itself up onto gas. And as soon as we hitch up to the tow vehicle and start the engine, it will then automatically go over to 12 volt maintain. We can take it out of auto if we want to. All we do is we just hold down the grey button just here. It will begin to flash, and then we just use the arrow keys to pick. So we can manually put it onto mains, or 12 volt maintain, or gas. But auto is the easiest one to have it on. Once we've selected this, it will then go across to the temperature control, and again just use your arrows, press finally, and there we are. We then have a very nice large fridge and a very good size freezer compartment just there. Beneath the fridge, again, more storage and the isolation tap for the fridge on gas. If we now move into the washroom, we have the shower just here. Do make sure that the screen is clipped back for travel. The Thetford toilet just here. To open to the cassette, just slide the lever across and then push to flush. Level indicator just here to let you know when you need to empty the cassette. We then have the pull down basin. Drains off just in the corner here. And then the vanity unit just there. The light switches for in here are just tucked around here. As we move to the back of the caravan, we have obviously the underbed storage, but also in here we have the Aldi boiler. To drain the Aldi boiler for winterisation and for travel, very similar to draining down that fresh tank at the front, we need to pull up this lever just here, and again we just need to make sure that the water pump is turned off, and that will then drain all the water out of the boiler. To refill it, literally flap it over like so, make sure you've got water in your tank, and then turn your water pump on, and it will then start to reprime it as soon as you start opening taps up, blowing the air out. When we are fully draining the system down, especially for winterisation, we can also pop this grey lever up here, and that will then aid in draining down the pipework. It will release airlocks, etc. In this wardrobe we have the header tank for the Aldi heating system. We just need to make sure that the fluid is between the minimum and the maximum. Do not take your reading until the system is up to temperature, as it will expand in the tank. If it does need topping up, we can remove the collar just here and unscrew the cap, and then add the top up solution. Do make sure you are using the correct Aldi solution if you are going to do this. Also in here we have the main strip switches, so we have the individual MCBs, main RCD and test button just here. And then also in here we have the television aerial. So we just need to unscrew the collar just at the very top and unscrew this one, and then we can then pop the mast up and get it into the position we require. This square here represents the back of the aerial. H stands for horizontal. We can flip the aerial to the vertical position for additional tuning just by turning the tail just here. Do make sure we're back to the horizontal position and that the aerial is down for travel. The booster box is tucked right up here, and you turn it on and off on the top, and it has a signal finder in it, so if you have a nice strong green light, you know you've got a nice strong signal for the aerial. The TV bracket just here comes out by pushing this part in, and then that will then allow this to fully come out. We have the courtesy light switch just here for the rear lights at the back.